Well, hello, everybody. A special hello to the Facebook family and the YouTube family. Thank you for joining Bella Biz Unplugged. Let's get right into it. I have an exciting episode this evening. And guess what, everybody? Today is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. It's election day, among a lot of things. So I'd like to thank everybody for taking the opportunity and time to chime in. More importantly, for those who already voted, I don't have my peach with me, Tracy, but go everybody out of the state of Georgia. There you go, Tracy, who early voted. And I know some people are still at the polls voting. So thank you very much for just chiming in. Before I get into my very special guest, and I have a very special guest, I want to just first of all take the time to thank Lawrence Stewart. He's the owner, CEO of Real Time Processing. It's a merchant service company. He has sponsored me for the third time. Hand, folks, you can sponsor me anytime you'd like. But Lawrence, thanks a lot. If you need a merchant processor, see Lawrence Stewart, Real Time Processing, or check me out and I'll make sure I get in touch with you, all right? So without further ado, some of you may have seen this beautiful face before. I'm going to go right into it. I usually read bios, and y'all know how Bella's ever changing, but I'm going to let this little lady talk about herself because she is not only my friend, she's my mentor. She's a former past president, the first African American, I need to say that, the first woman of color in the state of Georgia to be the past president of the League of Women Voters of Georgia. She's also so much more. I will give her thunder if I shut up right now. Without further ado, I want to bring into the room. She's already here. Drum roll, everybody. My girl, Tracy Atkinson. Hey, Tracy, how you doing?
Hey, Bella. Bella knows how to bring you on, baby. Hey, everybody. Yes, my name is Tracy Atkinson. I am the immediate past president for the League of Women Voters of Georgia. I started with the League 20 years ago with the League of Women Voters of Atlanta, Fulton County. And I joined the League because I wanted to learn more about the levels of government, how politics work, the intricacies behind the scenes, how voting and elections work. And boy, did I learn so much more. And 20 years later, I'm still here, not because of me, but because I didn't learn a lot, but because the experience of and the feeling of helping someone register to vote, go vote, understand the mechanics of voting, understand the importance of voting is priceless, bar none.
All right.
Seeing somebody vote for the first time.
I'm going to stop her right now because I see it's several thousand out there watching, and I got a special surprise. But before I bring our very own CEO of the League of Women Voters of the United States, I said it, of America, I want to give a shout out because this little lady over here to my left, to my right, depending on what you're looking at, is instrumental in bringing Bella, aka Linda, into the league because I was like, please. And 13 years later, here I am following my girlfriend. So I want you all to understand and listen tonight. It's fundamental. Doing community work is fundamental. We're not going to convince you of anything. We're going to lay it out for you. But without further ado, y'all don't know what we don't know. I got the CEO, baby. Y'all don't understand how hard it is to get my lady. So I'm getting ready to bring her on right now. The infamous, ours truly, CEO of the League of Women Voters. Come on, Tracy. Whoa. Hey, Solomon. Hey. How are you, my dear? She's gonna probably take herself off mute. We've been having some challenges, but y'all know.
Okay, no, these are me challenges, but I am here. We fixed the internet issue. I am here. I'm so happy to see you all. It's election day, so we've been busy.
So let's get right into it, Virginia. We got a couple thousand people following us right now. So Virginia, I just want you to tell them who you are. Tracy and I are here. We are so pleased. We're so pleased to have you amongst us in the midst. So
I'm happy to be with my sisters in justice doing this important work and having this conversation. So it's an honor for me. But my name is Virginia K. Solomon. I'm the CEO of the League of Women Voters of the United States. I came to the League 3 years ago and have been hardcore working on voting rights and democracy issues since. And it's just been such a joy to engage in this work and have a political home where there are so many powerful women doing this work.
You know what, Virginia, I'm going to ask you this question, and Tracy, because a couple of people are asking me, you know, they wonder, what's your background? What makes a person get into a civic organization such as that? Yeah. Virginia, I want you to talk about that, and Tracy as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, coming to the League, I started as an organizer in my late teens, organizing in my own community. And so voting rights wasn't the issue for me at the time. It was actually criminal justice reform, because I grew up in a community there in public housing where there were many of the community members that I grew up with who either were selling drugs, they were engaged in criminal activity. But when you dug down into the why, it was because of lack of opportunity. People didn't want to be on the corner. They didn't want to be engaged in those activities. Nobody wants to deal with being harassed by the police. Nobody wants to be labeled as a criminal. But lack of education opportunities. When I was growing up, only 57% of the kids in my city in Hartford, Connecticut, actually graduated from high school at that time. Oh. If it gives you an idea of the poverty rates are disproportionate. Still in the state of Connecticut, it is the poorest city in the state. And so the conditions have not changed much there. But I was working on other issues, and it was really around youth empowerment. And a community organizer came and said, you know, you have a lot of influence with your peers. Do you want to do some organizing? Do you want to? And it wasn't my thing. I didn't even know what organizing was. But fortunately, they were persistent with me. And I found that it was really just being in relationship with people and helping connect dots for people and helping people find their own voice. And from that, I got into more political organizing, because one of the things that I realized was that if we don't have the right people in office and we're not preparing the right people to run for office, we can't change the conditions that we are facing in our communities. And so understanding power building and what it means to build power really was something that I have been fascinated with for a long time. I think Black and brown communities in particular are overlooked, underutilized, and overexploited time and time again. And so really helping people find their voice for me is a real passion. And then connecting them to the issues that matter in our day-to-day lives. I eventually moved to DC. I took on a job with a national organization, and my real focus was Latino and immigrant rights. That is my background. That is the work that I have really been doing for a very long time, is building power in brown communities. And I think the election of Donald Trump, the 2016 election, and seeing how many people just didn't show up. I think there were a lot of people who were convinced that we had gotten to a different place. And of course, we're going to win. Nobody's going to, we're a nonpartisan organization. But I think there were a lot of people who thought it would not be possible for somebody who demonstrated a lack of moral values and had attacked, women and so many different issues that people thought a candidate like that could not get elected. And people were very wrong. People were very wrong all along. And so I think for me, again, this was prior to League, I realized that the issues that I was focusing on, those issues around immigrant rights, issues that that the Latino community had been facing, they weren't really being addressed by anybody and haven't been for a very long time. I also realized that the issues that we faced went beyond the issues that the Latino community were facing. It was beyond immigration, that every single issue that impacts our day-to-day lives, really, the League was one of those organizations that has been standing on the forefront for a really long time. And so when I was approached about the opportunity at the League, at first I was like, I don't know, it kind of, people thought of the League as like, it's just old white ladies. And I remember the headhunter coming to me and saying, no, you really need to see what the league is trying to do, because it's not the league that you remember. And so I was like, nah, but if I think of anybody, I'll let you know. And then when I finally said yes, after the third time, I'll have a conversation, and I saw the transformation roadmap that the league had in place and the work that the league had been doing, it was an eye-opener for me, because I saw an opportunity to bring more women in, to bring more people in, and to be able to build power in a way with a historic organization that's been around for 100 years. And so it was when I went to not seeing myself in the league and having somebody really walk me through, no, this is the league of today, that I was like, there might be a space for me there. And the rest is history. I've been here for 3 years, and it's just been an amazing experience, because we've seen such a transformation. And I will say the other thing is, there are a lot of primarily white organizations for a long time that had to get called out because of racism, because of some of the things that their membership had done. And one of the things that impressed me about the league was that it was already doing that internal reckoning, looking back at its history. What happened in the suffrage movement 100 years ago? How is this organization built? And how do we need to deconstruct and rebuild in order to be a more inclusive organization where everybody sees this as an opportunity to be their political home? So, I've spoken a lot, but there are a lot of things that I touched on there that I think, hopefully kind of explain why somebody like me, who was a community organizer, found themselves at the league, because it really has been just, I think, an example of how you can, and it's not perfect, right? No organization is perfect. The league is working towards not only a more perfect democracy, but also working towards being able to be an organization that centers racial equity in its work. And so those are all things that we're doing, but it's work that I'm proud of.
Well, let me just say, I'm going to take my 2 minutes, and probably Tracy as well. We don't get to have your presence, and people that's not in the league don't understand the magnitude. But I want to say thank you, because when I came in 13 years ago, it was that, to me, that white little organization, little white ladies. And Tracy, I'm going to thank her publicly, was persistent in saying, no, Lynn, you got to get past that. You got to get past that. We're going to talk about that tonight in terms of democracy, because a lot of times we see with the naked eye, and a lot of times, I always be truthful, we sacrificially lamb, right? Look at people and judge a book by its cover, and we don't even have a clue. And 9 times out of 10, what I've learned, Virginia, Tracy knows me extremely well, we're always wrong. People who've been following me, I just got back from Tanzania. That's another episode, but I say that to say this, Virginia. I have learned, that was my very first international trip, and I have learned what you just said. People are people wherever you go. It doesn't matter the language, which was Swahili. I did learn a few tricks of the trade, Virginia and Tracy. But my point is, people are still people wherever you go. You've got good, bad, and different people. You got people that want to do things positively to you and negatively to you. It's a universal language, and we don't have to necessarily be able to speak the same language. It's the body language. So I thank you in advance, Virginia, up close and personal, in public, for the work, because I have to tell you, Tracy can give her 2 minutes too, and we're talking truth tonight. I have personally seen a change since you've been there 3 years ago. So I say thank you, thank you, thank you, Virginia. What about you, Tracy? We'll go into some more democracy tonight.
Yes, absolutely. I concur, and I would venture to say that Virginia was the breath of fresh air that the league really needed, and the leadership that at the national level, we've had great leaders, but the leadership that we needed now for such a time as this, to set the direction and take us to the next level and on a different path. So I thank you for your leadership. You are so genuine and real and down to earth and lovable. Not often qualities that you get in a leader.
So ladies, let's talk about some things tonight. We already know in certain states, to Tracy and Virginia alluded to the fact, we know there's a big eye, Virginia, on the state of Virginia for the governor, right? When we've seen President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and others. So many people help campaign, as well as a lot of elections going on in the state of Georgia. For those who are not in Georgia, shout out anyway. The city of Atlanta mayor, whom I worked for, the former mayor, Kasim Reed, a few years ago, is out along with 14 others. So we have a lot of municipalities, a lot of local races going on. So let's dive into this, because I'm telling you, Virginia and Tracy, I'm still bothered. People still come up to Bell and say, my vote don't matter. I'll be like, what?
Well, but don't you think, it's so funny. We were talking about doing this work. I don't know if you can see this poster behind me on my wall, but it's a quote from Angela Davis, and it's a picture of Angela Davis. And it says, you have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. And that's, I think, one of the I think of so many incredible, powerful women who have been in the forefront. I'm a girl's girl. I love seeing women win. It doesn't mean if you are a trans woman, gender non-binary, a woman, I love seeing the guys win too. But I feel like women have a special place because we've often been marginalized so much. These elections, and when you talk about people not wanting to vote or feeling like their vote doesn't matter, it's because for a long time, people were treated as if their vote didn't matter. Or they haven't seen the change, right? So I'm always curious about the why. If it doesn't matter, is it because you don't see changes, or you think that your vote won't be counted? Because if it's about not being counted, then we need to educate you on the process of voting and how voting, is handled. But if it's because you're not seeing changes, a lot of people go back to their same community and they see the same thing, and they don't see those changes. Because if you're worried about how am I going to, get my next paycheck, or I don't have money for the dentist and I have $1,000 worth of dental work that needs to happen, and my insurance only covers 20% of it. Like, those are real life issues, and people need to be able to feel like they're seeing the impact of their vote. And I think we need to do a better job of we, meaning all of us, need to do a better job of holding our candidates accountable once they have been elected.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a comment on, and you guys know, Tracy knows me, Virginia, you know me too. I like to get right into the meat. I like interaction. So Denise Winston, shout out to my soror up in the DMV. She said, yes, we are the same, Virginia and Tracy, but we need to come together to reach our common goals. So I'll just simply start there. How can we do that? Let's give some nuggets. Let's give some takeaway homework, ladies.
Tracy, I'll let you go first on this one.
Absolutely. I would say that there is a need for better representation in the officials that we elect. They should reflect the community. They should reflect us across the United States. If 50% is women, then 50% of every elected body should be women. And understanding that women are the glue to every family, to the communities, to the state, to the nation. Why wouldn't you want that representation at the table? But it brings it because women are always going to look out for everybody. We're not going to just look out for ourselves. We're going to look out for our families, our friends, our neighborhoods, our communities, everybody. And so we're going to make sure that there's laws and policies that govern us accordingly. And that's a way to bring us all together with common goals. We're all one race, the human race. That's my take on it.
Powerful, Virginia. That's powerful.
No, Tracy, I agree. I think where I would say yes, and I also feel as though coming together requires reconciliation in some way. I do believe that many people, we've talked about privilege a lot, I know, and at the league, and kind of like how you acknowledge your privilege. It is much easier for some people to navigate. I look at my complexion and I know that it's easier for me to navigate certain spaces than it would be for either one of you in certain circles, right? Because people will look at me differently because of my complexion.
That's right.
And so when it comes to coming together, I also think that there is a responsibility of white women in particular to be able to fall back at times and allow the voices of women who have historically been marginalized to be lifted up and put forward first. And that's why, I think, yes, we have to come together, but we also have to recognize that everybody doesn't navigate this country with the same amount of privilege. And so how we have those conversations, those hard ones, we need to have them in order to really be unified. And I think a lot of people are afraid of those conversations because they feel somehow that it's a way of that they walk away feeling bad. Like we've seen these very bizarre conversations around critical race theory, for example.
Yes.
And I'm always like perplexed, like we're talking about teaching American history. This is not a master's level course. We're talking about elementary school kids. Why would you not want them to know the truth about our country? And so I think there is a fear among some white folks that they feel like they're being convicted, right? And instead of working through it, they want to work around it or bury it. And until we can have better conversations and more open and transparent conversations where people don't see themselves as somehow being victimized because of their skin tone. Because now it's amazing to me that you see so many white folks who are playing this victim role, like somehow they're being victimized. But until we can have those conversations, it's really hard to have that kind of solidarity, I believe.
Oh, I definitely listen, Virginia. I can go off. This is one of the reasons why I created Bella Biz Unplugged. I mean, people know I haven't really told my full story, Virginia. When I quit my good government job last year because I knew the passion was exuding me and I knew I wasn't in my calling. It's important to have platforms and opportunities like this. And I'll say this, you're absolutely right. I'm like gung-ho. Coming from Africa, for me as an African-American woman, going to the motherland, I'm going to do a whole year, I promise you, of just the things I've learned. And you're right, we don't talk about these things because you know what? The truth does not set out everybody free. I'm going to say it one more time. The truth does not set everybody free. And I'm on my soapbox, forgive me, Virginia, but we have an open forum and I'm very passionate about this. We've got to have more conversations about this. It's generational, right? It's multicultural. It is not just specific to Georgia. It is not just specific to Tanzania. It is specific, like Tracy said, there's one race, there's the human race. I'm going to share a nugget and we're going to go right into it because I want my audience to be interactive and they're coming in like droves. But I'm going to share this. My trip to Africa, because I can't share this on the Bella Biz Show, right? My trip to Africa was, among all things, amazing. But one thing I learned, Virginia and Tracy, when I went to the 8th wonder of the world in Ngorongoro, which is in Arusha, Tanzania, I did not know, first of all, where I was at. Then when I was told where I was at, and we had a moment, it was about 25 of us, 25 on a trip. They said, take a picture, take a mental picture, and look down at the equator. When I looked down, Virginia and Tracy, and saw the glories of our Creator, whomever anybody answers to, you cannot tell me there's not a Creator out here. Because I saw with my own human eyes the equator, a piece of the equator the human eye could see, to see the splendors and glories. So Virginia, as you know, and Tracy, that we're part of the League of Women Voters, and we know this systemic racism, I'm saying it, is not going to go away today, but we're certainly chiseling at it. And I applaud you, Virginia, because we need to have more Black and brown people and everyone in the human race to come together, right? Because we wasn't created to manage people. We were created to manage this earth because we're stewards. And so until we get that right, it might not be in my lifetime, but I am venture to say, Virginia, I will go down fighting. And I applaud you for that. So I'm looking at some of the conversation. I kind of went off with, Tracy, you know me, and Virginia Luke-Nerman. This is my hot spot, why I'm able to do the Bella Biz Unplugged, because people don't want to talk about what they want to talk about. And this is very important. So I'm looking at some of the powerful statements, but when we're talking about democracy today, as we know it in 2021, I've got a lot of my friends on from the DMV area, from Baltimore, Maryland, Virginia, you name it, and we all have the same common problem. So if you did not vote today, it's cool, but we're talking about democracy. And we have a world of information, and we've got some subject matter experts. Virginia K. Solomon, who is the CEO of the League of Women Voters of the U.S. I'm proud to be a part of it. And Tracy is the past first African American, and still only to this date, Virginia, of the League of Women Voters of Georgia. Now, I would like Virginia to break down a little bit, because I'm always doing my shameless plugs, how we are operating, how we're charting, how people can join in. It's not about just women. We do have men in the league, don't we, ladies?
Yes, we do. So we are 765 plus organizations, basically. We're all affiliated under the same structure in a federated model, meaning that we have national, state, and local leagues throughout the country who are working both on local issues directly in your communities, as well as state and national issues. And so that has brought us to a place where we have close to 500,000 members and activists who are in the league, who are fighting every day for democracy. And so some of our big issues right now, our kind of main program at the national office is something called Making Democracy Work. We have a specific program called Women Power the Vote, and then we put in place during election year. So next year we'll go back to Women Power the Vote. Right now we're doing Women Power Democracy. And so we are focusing on two key important pieces of legislation at the national level. First is the Freedom to Vote Act. And then the other is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which will be brought to the floor for cloture vote tomorrow. And so now both of these pieces of legislation, the Freedom to Vote Act, we like to call that the sword. It allows us to be on the offensive to make sure that there is an equal playing field for everybody. You know, you can go to a McDonald's, Starbucks, you can go to any franchise in the country and order the same exact thing and have the same exact experience. You ever walk into a Target and you know as soon as you walk ahead, it's women's clothes up there to the left, and to the right you go down and you see all of your cleaning supplies and makeup and all that. You can't do that when you go to vote. If I vote in Maryland, my experience will be completely different if I move to Texas or if I move to Georgia. And so there are certain things that we get state rights. We're not saying that they shouldn't have elections administrators who administer and determine, you know, where polling locations should be located. And you know, some of those things that we expect should be done at the local and state level. But your experience as a voter should be the same. We're talking about getting money out of politics. We're talking about making sure that redistricting is fair. We're talking about making sure that things like being able to have a bottle of water handed to you in line is not a criminal activity. So the Freedom to Vote Act is really, really important, because what it does is it evens the playing field. It allows us to be on the offensive when it comes to making sure that there is access to the ballot. When it comes to the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, this is another critical piece. We call it the shield. It's our protection, right? So when the Voting Rights Act was gutted back in 2013 in the case of Shelby v. Holder, it took away some pre-clearance provisions, which were very important. Before, when they changed voting laws, they used to have to go to the Department of Justice. They had to get permission. And it was just a way to make sure that we weren't still engaging in Jim Crow type practices, right, in certain states. And we know certain states have a reputation for disenfranchising people. And this has been reauthorized time and time again, most recently by a Republican president under George W. Bush. But for whatever reason, this new Republican administration feels as though this is no longer something that we need. And so we have been working and lobbying the Republicans and pushing them to join in, because there is no reason we see at the League of Women Voters why this shouldn't be legislation that everybody can get behind. If we talk about we are a democratic republic, and we talk about the importance of having access to the ballot, we talk about election security, we talk about all these things, these are two key pieces of legislation that we've been working on that we know will solve many of the challenges that we have today in our democracy and remove some of the doubt that people have had when it comes to their vote. And so we are really excited about that at the national level. We have also been at the White House every couple of weeks protesting, and we've gotten arrested. I got arrested last week. I will be risking arrest tomorrow with Martin Luther King III, his wife Andrea, and their granddaughter, who will all be there with us in solidarity, because we are pushing on the White House and saying, we need this administration to be out in front on voting rights the way that they have been on infrastructure. We need this administration to call for a convening with Democrats and Republicans to talk about voting rights, to talk about our democracy, so that we can come to solutions together as a country. And so that's some of the stuff that we're focusing on at the national level. But Tracy, I would welcome you to talk about some Georgia specific stuff, and even at the local level, and share some of the stuff that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Well, we're the boots on the ground, as you said. In Georgia, we have leagues from Atlanta to Macon to Carrollton to Savannah, and points in between, that are registering voters and educating voters about the process. We worked to get races statewide in Vote 411 so that you could log on and check your ballot before, and your polling place and the status of your registration before you go vote today. And we've been, of course, involved in fighting for fair, transparent redistricting process, which I believe our state legislative body started yesterday in a special session to draw the lines, or redraw the lines, I should say. So it's a lot going on here. Our local leagues are observing local boards of educations in every county that we have leagues in, and submitting those reports to the state, and we take action when necessary and appropriate, especially if they're trying to close polling places or anything out of order, especially against the law, but anything that would disenfranchise Georgia voters. So we got lots more going on, but that's just a few of the things that I could think of off the top of my head.
Oh, thank you. Now, this is what I want to do, because there's never enough time for Virginia. I'm going to put you on blast. Can I get you back?
I'm right here. What's up?
We're going to have a really, really in-depth conversation, which I've asked Ambassador Andrew Young to join us. And so we just got to get the dates. I want everybody to understand it. That's going to be a powerful one. But in our last few minutes, I want ladies to talk about, particularly Virginia and Tracy, women getting into politics, period. Because what I'm seeing is a shift in the paradigm. I'm loving my millenniums and my young folks. And for you all that know me, I have one daughter. Shout out Ashley. She's always there in my corner. She's 30. Don't want me to tell her age. She just turned 32. However, I try to engage her in the things that I do. And to be quite frankly, they're a whole different generation. And so we have to bring them in. So I want you to talk a little bit, Virginia and Tracy, about just the league and how it relates to bringing in people to join the league, and just women getting into politics, because people still don't understand really who we are, what we do, Virginia and Tracy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for anybody, finding your political home matters, whether it's a woman, man, if you're part of if you identify as, non-binary, however that is, you need to have that political home. It is so critical. And I think some people think of it as though you have to be in all the time, right? You can join a committee. If your focus is local water quality issues, we know water is a racial justice issue, right? So if you're dealing with bad water in your community and you want to focus on that, the thing that's great about the league is that local leagues dictate their priorities and their issues related around their communities. And the reality is, as we all know, all politics are local, and it all filters up. It doesn't flow down. It definitely filters up. And so I think for women in particular, because, and you said this earlier, Linda, women are heads of households. Women play roles in our society in ways that we haven't done ever before. And we are key decision makers. And when our voices are absent, the outcomes we get can be harmful because that lack of representation is not there. And so women in particular, I think it's very important, not only, and for, I think what I've heard from a lot of millennials and Gen Z folks is that they're just like, y'all old ladies talk about us. You know, you had your chance, you haven't done anything. We're still stuck in this situation. Climate change is a real thing. Our votes are being taken away, this and that and other. They feel disempowered. And so I think it's our responsibility as that next generation to help lay the foundation to welcome them in. I think oftentimes one thing that I've learned is that they don't always feel heard. Like sometimes we get the power, we get the baton, and we're not ready to pass it on. And so I think it's important to be able to, and that's why like we're going through our search for our new board of directors at the national office. And that conversation I had yesterday with the nominating committee, I said, we need more young women representing. We need their voices. They need to be seen as powerful leaders in our organization. It can't be that you've served this amount of time and now you get to serve on this committee. Right. And I think that that's how a lot of organizations are set up. It's based on time served and not the quality, skills, and talents that you bring to the table. And so I think that that's one thing. And bringing young women in, I think running for office, I do believe that running for office is a calling. I do believe it's a calling. I don't think it's for everybody. I think that some people are meant to keep their foot on the backs of legislators, and some people are meant to do the legislating. And so being a legislator is not easy work. You have to find compromise. You have to have a passion for government and for service. But the impact that if we had more young people running for office, think about that, because we have these first generations who have grown up with the internet. They've grown up with social media. They don't know a time when they didn't have a cell phone. Their lives and their futures are different than the ones that we have, right? Because we know a time before. And that can often be a crutch for us to not be innovative. And I think that being able to have more young people in particular, and young women being representative, and having women who are more seasoned and more experienced come together, how powerful how much of an impact we could have.
Well, I mean, that's a hard act to follow, Tracy. I want to get your comment. I have a question for each one of you before we close out. Tracy, any comments?
Yes, I will just say this. Democracy is not a spectator sport. That has become a bit cliche-ish. However, it's a reality. You cannot sit on the sidelines and complain anymore. You can, but it's not going to get you anything or anywhere. It's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help your community. So, as I said before, every voice needs to be at the table. Young, old, black, white, male, female, everything, everybody, because we all have great ideas. We all have gifts and talents, like Virginia said. So we need everybody at the table making legislation that makes sense for everybody. And looking through the lens of all taxpayers. We deserve that. You deserve that right. So that's my take on it.
I'm going to make a comment. I'm going to ask the final question. Honestly, my daughter drives me. Tracy, you know your little niecey poo. And it bothers me, Virginia, but I'm about action. And what it bothers me, it's not my daughter. It's my daughter's choice. It's her generation saying, Mom, I'll support you. Tracy knows that she's at every function for me. I'm putting her on a good blast, and I'm very serious. She's always supporting Mom, but when it comes to joining the organization, it's like you said, Virginia, no disrespect, Mom. That's a little old white lady organization. Y'all ain't even talked about anything, that concerns my generation. That's, Virginia, I know you got sons. That drives me crazy in a good way, to keep my foot on and for passion. And I thank my daughter for that, because she keeps it real. We know about the millennials. They ain't going to shuck and jive. They're going to tell you straight up what they don't like and what they do like. So as I close out, I'm going to have Virginia and Tracy back for a more in-depth political soft conversation. And I say that because people get me when they're like, Bella, I'm not trying to get all into that. You're not trying to get all into what? Your everyday living? Your source supply? Being counted for the census? Understanding what all these different organizations do and why we do what we do, redistricting, fair maps. I mean, it may sound foreign, but like Tracy said in Virginia, people, you can't continue to be on the sidelines, which I know you are, complaining and talking about your rights to vote. I don't want to hear it. So as we close out in this wonderful hour, I wish we had more time. I want Virginia to go last. Tracy, anything on your heart that you want to impart to the several thousands of people who are watching, generally speaking, and just anything you want to let them know in terms of election, more importantly, democracy now, the importance of, joining an organization, sowing some of your seeds and time in. I mean, you guys are hearing my story. I've been doing it since I was 8 years old. I watched my mother be a poll worker and everything else. And therefore, I wanted to do the same. So, Tracy, share what's on your heart. I'm going to let Virginia close out. And I want to thank you, ladies, for coming in. This is like a great conversation. They're flooding in. I can't put every question up here, but Tracy, share your heart.
Sure. I'll say two things. One, we need those young voices at the table of organizations, especially organizations like the League that are nonpartisan, that don't have a dog in the fight from the political aspect, but whose goal is to just educate and empower voters and defend our democracy. Why wouldn't you want to be involved with an organization like that? I don't understand. But we need, as Ashley said, they don't hear the messaging coming from us that speaks to them. But just like every segment of the population that has prevailed, there was a fight to get to the table. You got to get to the table with your voice, with your needs, with your wants, with your ideas. The other thing that I will say is, when I went to vote and get my little peach, I was sad that I was only the 110th voter, 110th person to cast a vote in my precinct at 5:15 this evening. Yep. So people, voting has got to become a lifestyle for everybody. Voting is a lifestyle. You got to vote in every election. On my ballot was the mayor of my city and a council person, one council person. They are going to determine my taxes, what new businesses come to the city of Conyers, so much that's going to, potholes and sidewalks and so much that's going to affect my everyday life. And I at least got my voice heard. You want to get your voice heard from the top to the bottom, every election.
Thank you. I'm going to go before Virginia because you just put up something, because I really want Virginia. She will drive it home and there will be no need to compensate afterwards. Let me share my conversation. I don't live in the same city as Tracy. I live in a different city. I won't name it. I'll be polite, but I'm in Georgia. I was the first person. People know me. They know me. I'm an early riser. I put it out on social media, right? I get to my polling place. I will not name where. I'm there 30 minutes early. I'm the first one. Okay. They don't get to open up to 7:15, ladies, because they are not together and they didn't have any signage out. It was an elementary school. Had to walk around the entire school. My daughter can testify. I called my daughter. And I said, Ashley, why is it always mommy trying to help fix things? Don't mind helping. Had to go in there, talk to a police officer, figure out where the daggone polling. Now, mind you, this is 6:45 now. By the time I got to the polling place, which was in the cafeteria, they weren't ready to be set up yet. So I didn't venture to say vote until 7:22. That's my experience. And still no signage was outside for people to go vote. So people, don't come talk to Bella about what you ain't going to do, because I ain't trying to hear it. I want you to have the mindset The okie doke is, which is what I call it, is gonna be. So guess what? Accept it, get over it, stop crying, do what you gotta do to make the vote. Because guess what, Tracy? I was the first person at 7:29 to get my first speech, okay? Because I'm determined to make my vote count. So on those notes, I want Virginia to take the floor however long she wants to talk about it. Whatever's on your heart, Virginia, I would like you to appeal to these lovely thousands of people out here. Virginia, Maryland, DC, California, New Jersey, a couple other states I see. Just please share with them the importance of democracy now in 2021.
Well, thank you. And you both are such an inspiration to me. I just want to say, you know, I love you ladies. You were some of the first people to welcome me when I came to the league, and with open arms and just a loving heart. I would add, though, something that Tracy said when you talked about what's determined, and police budgets, criminal justice. Many times judges are appointed. City budgets, how our resources are being spent, county budgets, when it comes to education and how much money is going to our schools. All of these things matter. And budgets, if you want to know what a priority is, look at your budget for your community. Community budgets, state budgets, local are very similar to our own household budgets, right? We prioritize the things that are important to us. Look where the money is going. One of the things that I love about the league, we have a league observer corps, and there are people who go and sit in those budget meetings and ask questions and show up for hearings and show up for meetings. They are all over it. They're like the watchdogs. One of the things I love about the league is that we have people who people I don't have time today, or I got time today. They got time today. Every single time they'll be like, I got time. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen and I'm going to find out what's going on. And I think we need more people who are going to make the time to really scrutinize those budgets, who are going to sit there and pay attention, who are going to run candidate forums and debates, who are going to ask the right questions of candidates to make sure we get the right people in office. And so for folks who are trying to figure out how you can plug in, because everybody doesn't have the same amount of time. You know, time is not infinite. We all have a limited amount. There are only 24 hours in a day. And so if you're working, you're taking care of your family, you have other responsibilities. Some people are working 2 jobs. You know, you have to figure out where you can plug in. And one of the things about the league and where we're going is that we want people to plug in a way that is meaningful for them. So if it means you can only register voters and you can't be, you don't want to be an officer on the board, or you don't want to do certain things because that's just not your thing, but you have skills and talents that you bring to the table, we want you to offer those to an organization like ours. So if social media is your thing and you can be on social media, we can find something for you to do. If you're an accountant, you're like, look, I'm not into all this other stuff, but I can help make sure your books are good, we got a spot for you. If you're somebody with a communications background and you can help us write press releases, we got a spot for you. So it's not always about, and if you want to learn how to lobby, you want to learn how to do advocacy, you want to learn how to organize in your communities, we can help you with that too. Because our goal, again, is to build power so that it's everyday people's voices being lifted up and heard. And right now, I think there's an opportunity. We're working in coalition right now with Black Voters Matter, Advancement Project, People for the American Way, NAACP, Common Cause. We have a lot of partners across the board that we work with, because we all recognize that it's not just any one organization, it's all of us coming together and doing this work. There is so much that needs to be done. And if we don't do it together, it can feel exhausting. It can feel tiring. You can feel like, why am I doing this? Nothing is changing. But that community that we have created of activists in the civil rights community, in the voting rights community coming together, that space that's been created is how we replenish one another. And right now, our democracy, I've had conversations with many people about this. It's not just about today. When we reflect back on 2020, the league had more than 70 voting rights lawsuits to protect our elections in 2020. We're just one organization. Many other organizations had many other lawsuits as well to make sure that people could access the ballot, to protect every single person here's vote. We impacted at the league more than 20 million voters through our lawsuits. 20 million people had the opportunity to vote. And those lawsuits were expensive. We had to put a lot of resources into it. 2020 was an extraordinary year. We know that there are people who do not see democracy the way that we see democracy, who don't want to see every person's voice count in this country. And we know that we have primary elections just a few months away for the midterm. We know we have a midterm just a year from now. And I think many of us are fearful that without these protections, without all of us standing up and having our voices heard and demanding that this legislation be put through, that the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, without those protections, they're not a silver bullet by any means. There's still going to be work in the states. There's still going to be all of the things that we had to do. But at least we will be starting with an even baseline. And so one of the things that my ask for folks today would be to join us in supporting this legislation. If you have people who are in any state in this country, making sure that you are calling your legislators, calling your senators, calling your representatives, calling the White House, and then calling your local elected officials and saying, we need you to do this as well. Because at the end of the day, without these protections in place, what we saw in 2020 and the aftermath of the 2020 election from dis and misinformation, aka lies, when we see these things, when we see the violence that ensued, we are facing that and more if we do not start to get this under control. I loved one of the comments that you had from one of the women here earlier who said, like, we need to come together. This is a coming together moment where everybody can do their part. And trust me, those elected officials, they want to get reelected. They are responsive to you. You signed their paycheck. And so it's up to them to do the right thing, but it's up to us to keep our feet on their backs and make sure that they do it. And so that would be my ask of everybody. And I just want to thank you, Linda, for this platform, Tracy, for your service time and time again. You are such a servant leader and one of my role models. You are such a powerful voice in your community and for so many other women. And Linda, the platform that you've created for women whose voices have been marginalized and oftentimes are not heard. Thank you for creating this space. So I'm just grateful for you both.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Did
we lose Linda?
I think we did.
I'm sure she'll be back in just a second. There we go.
There she is. So I'm going to hand it back to you, lovely Linda.
I love you, Virginia. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy, know the show must go on. You're not going to let a little power surge take this powerful speech away. Let's say this. I really don't have much to say, but thank you. I want to apologize to my audience. It's so many. You guys always do this at the end, Virginia and Tracy. They start rolling in with the questions. I'm like, ask the questions earlier, guys. Only have an hour.
If you have, I have a few more minutes. I can go to 8 if you want to answer some questions.
Super. Let me see what's on here. But I think they're just basically comments. Dr. Joe was the last one, and she's a friend of Tracy and I. I really just want to give you, Virginia and Tracy, your flowers today. I believe in that. But I do want to say something to you, Virginia. You know, we absolutely honor you, but she gets on me. She'll be mad, but I don't care. Tracy does not get her due justice. She does not ask for it. I know that. We're beyond friends. It's more business as well. But she gets mad at me every time. I don't care. It's my show. I can do what I want to do. She never gets to me the due justice. This is a very smart, articulate, intelligent woman. I met her. We don't have enough time from another organization that we're part of, and I had no idea. And so what I'm saying this to all my thousands of followers, please do not judge a book by its cover. This lady right here, yeah, man, if I can make her the president to be a campaign manager, I plan on doing that for you because she has a beautiful, smart mind, and she doesn't dumb herself down. She's very moderate. She's very modest, and she's very humble. But I know that brain of Tracy, and I know together we're going to be better. Virginia, I thank you. I'm trying to see if there's any questions to be asked because this is a big deal for us having you here. I don't see any more. I just see a lot of comments and positivity. You know, we need to give it up for our ladies. And I just want to thank everybody for coming in. All of my new friends, my new Tanzania friends. Trust me, Virginia, you don't want to miss that. I got so much to share. But more importantly, tonight, the theme, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody can do something. If you didn't pick up anything that Virginia and Tracy said, you don't have to join the League of Women Voters, shameless plug, but I would encourage you to at least go out and figure it out and just inquire about it in your local area where you live at. But you know what? Figure out, because you already know the answers, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever it is that you have a passion to do, just do it. Whether it's joining an organization, sowing in your time. I am a big community advocate. I know a lot of people aren't, but it's okay. Figure out what you like to do, as Virginia say, and just do it. Get in the freaking game. Get off the bench and stop talking about, oh my God, what about this election? Oh my God, whatever. Cut it. It's 2022 and we're forging on quickly, and time waits for no one. I encourage everybody to do something, because guess what, people? If you don't have a clue, democracy ain't free, y'all. It ain't free, okay?
Mm.
We gotta work to keep it. We gotta work to improve it. We gotta work to keep it going. So Bella chooses to look at the glass half full, not half empty. And I'd be doggone, Virginia and Tracy, we're going to get the millennials in. We're going to get the men in here. We're going to fire it up because we're ready to go. Because one of the things that told me, and Tracy knows it, and you know her too, Virginia, it's one of my mentors, Mr. Nona Clayton. Shout out, hey, Miss Clayton, who's 91 years old and still fighting the good fight. One of the secretaries at MLK, and she said, Linda, even back in the 50s, I told MLK and all of them, Jesse and all of them, and Andrew, I'm not one to march, but I tell you what, I'm good in the room. I'll be the best administrator that you've ever had. And by God, that's what she did. She knew what she wanted to do. I'm not going to march in the front. I'm going to absolutely help out. So people, get a clue, people. Figure out what you want to do. Get in the game, because you know what, your comments and your negativity, we don't want them. So without further ado, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today. More to come. Check your local channels for those who voted. I know I am. I'm very driven, Virginia and Tracy, and I've got some stake in the game to see who will be the next new elected mayor of the city of Atlanta, and that's very important to me. So I encourage everyone to check your local stations, whether it's your local channels, CNN, MNSP, whatever you prefer. Check it out. Don't be like, that voting crap. Get in the game. See what's going on. See who's against who. Look at the issues. And definitely, shameless plug, check out vote411.org. It's a platform that the league created over 10 plus years ago. We spent a lot of good money, y'all. Good legal money to get an app, which is a mobile app, just for you people, okay, to log in and to see where you're at. It's just a little tool to help. So get in the game, people. So as I close out, y'all know Bella, I got to put myself back in that bag. It's been real. I'd like to thank all my lovely people. I'm trying to get some comments in. No questions, Virginia and Tracy, just good encouragement. Beautiful. I got a lot of my sister girls, sorors, and all that on there. Everybody's like, good, on to another me. Thank you, Denise. She's always corporate. She works for AT&T. I love that girl. But without further ado, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I thank you, Virginia. You are leading with great expectations, and you're meeting every single one of them. Keep doing the darn thing. We're going to talk about, bring you back on about when you got arrested. I really want to hear the story, and I'm going to get Andrew Young and probably Nona Clayton, some of the old guards together so we can get some synergy going. But Virginia, keep on doing what you're doing in D.C. Don't let it stop you. And if you need anybody, any help in Georgia, Tracy and I, are we not here for you?
Yes, right. We are.
We love y'all. We would invite you to come get arrested with us. We got 2 more actions after tomorrow, the 10th and the 17th.
Uh-oh.
So welcome to join us.
Okay, Tracy, 10th and the 17th, Tracy. We got to look into that.
Okay.
So
all right.
ado,
Bella, thank you so much for the kind words.
Yes. Tracy, thank you publicly again. You know you are my girl. She's going to be the president somewhere. Trust me, Virginia. We got plans, right, Tracy?
Oh, I have
right, Tracy?
She's trying to make me run for office.
Well, you know what? I co-signed that recommendation. So.
Virginia, thank you very much. I'll be taking a collection plate after tonight, okay? Hey, listen, it's been real. Y'all know Bella got it going on with the Unplugged. I want to thank you all. Remember, voting is a lifestyle. That's a hashtag that Tracy and I came up with about 9 months ago, and I'm going to make a t-shirt of it. It ain't about the money, y'all. I want you. Voting is a lifestyle, okay? So get out there if you haven't voted. For those of you who have voted, thank you very much. For those of you have not, shame on you, as Mama would say, okay? But go watch your local list. Let's see who's going to take some of these fights tonight. On behalf of Virginia K. Solomon, Tracy Watkins Atkinson, along with your girl Bella Biz, it's been real. I'll see you all on the 18th with a really good topic, and just keep watching my social media. It's going to be one of a kind. Virginia, come back next year. We love to have you.
Love you.
Take care. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening, okay? All righty.